Good morning and welcome to the Spring 2026 Baylor Law School Commencement. Mr. Matthew Zahn has been selected by the graduating class to provide our invocation. Matthew?
Please join me in prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father, we gather today to praise you and to thank you for everything that you've done for our class. We ask today that you increase our capacity for joy and for thanksgiving so that we can remember what you have done for us. And what I ask for our class, Lord, as we proceed into our careers, into service, into our family lives, that you help us to understand that the deepest desires of our hearts for happiness, for fulfillment, to do something great with our lives are really desires for you. And that apart from you, we can do nothing. Jesus, we make this prayer in your most holy name. Amen.
Please be seated. Welcome again to this commencement ceremony. It's our hope that this is a joyous occasion for you. And we like to keep this appropriately solemn, but also to have a little fun. To that end, you may have noticed a little bit of confusion on the processional. Mr. Bang, you're going to be an outstanding attorney, but leading processionals I don't think is in your future. But you're going to be a great lawyer, as long as it doesn't involve leading processionals. I want to welcome you to the campus of Baylor University. We are so proud to be part of Baylor University, which was founded by the Republic of Texas in 1845. 12 years later, the law school was established, although law classes had been taught at Baylor University since its founding. We are a small law school by choice, and so one of the consequences of that is that we have small commencement classes. This is actually one of the larger ones for this year, but we do one 4 times a year. No matter how small the class is, we like to provide all of the students an opportunity to enjoy the ceremony with their family and friends. One of the things that they can tell you, and they probably already have told you through phone calls complaining to you about how difficult law school is and how evil some of the people on this stage behind me are. It's a difficult journey, and we don't hide that from them. We challenge them, and we do that because we think this profession is a challenging profession, and we want to make sure that they are prepared for that. But what that means right now is that every one of these soon-to-be graduates is sitting here for one reason and one reason only, and that is because they've earned it. And so the pride that you feel in your beloved graduate is absolutely justified. And so we're looking forward today to celebrating this accomplishment with you. One of the things that I think they would all agree on is that they didn't get here by themselves. They got here because of the things all of you, family and friends, did for them, not just while they were in law school, but from the time, for many of you, they were very, very young. From the time they were infants until the time they'll walk across this stage here very shortly. And I know they are deeply grateful for all that you have done for them. So graduates, consistent with our tradition, I will ask you to stand and turn and thank those who brought you to this point with your applause. Thank you. One of the things that is a theme in our program of education, because we think this is the essence of what it means to be a lawyer. These soon-to-be graduates will practice law in a lot of different areas. Some of them will be prosecutors, some of them will be plaintiff's attorneys, trial lawyers of of other sorts, transactional attorneys, various different kinds of practice areas, one almost unrecognizable compared to the other. But the one thing that we say must be true of all of them, from the time they show up for orientation to the time they walk across the stage, is that they must serve. Yes, they must serve their clients, but they must also serve their communities, this state and this nation. That they have an obligation to leave their communities better than when they found them, as well as serving our profession. One of the things we also have a tradition of recognizing at our commencement is to acknowledge that to have a society organized around the rule of law is not possible unless there are people willing to defend that place. And so we recognize the connection between the legal profession and our military. And so I want to recognize two members of our graduating class, and I'll ask you to stand. Tyler Bischoff, who served in the U.S. Army from July of 2013 to November of 2023, and Kyle Faraday, who served in the United States Marine Corps from 2011 to 2016. Gentlemen, thank you for your service, and I'll ask you to remain standing. It is also part of our tradition to ask anyone here present who has served in any branch of the military, whether active duty, reserve, or retired, to please stand so that we may recognize you as well. Please stand. Thank you all. Please be seated. Thank you. Thank you for your service. What we as lawyers do isn't possible without that service. I would like now to introduce some of the members of the stage party here. First, I want to recognize our faculty and staff. Most are here gathered on the stage, but there are some throughout the hall. And so I'll ask you, if you're a member of our faculty and staff, to please stand so that we may recognize you for your contributions to these students' educations, please. For those who are participating in today's ceremony, I want to give brief additional details about their roles in today's ceremony. We have today with us Catherine Sims and Dan Tilley, both of whom I believe are participating as hooders today. One of the things that you will see happen on the stage is after these graduates receive their diploma, they will then move to this side of the stage and they will be hooded. That is a mark of receiving a terminal academic degree. That sounds ominous, but it just means the highest academic degree you can receive. So they'll be hooded, and they get to choose at the ceremony who hoods them, and they've made a very fine selection. They have chosen Director of Student Affairs, Catherine Sims. You can read her bio along with everyone else's in the program, so I'm not going to go through it line by line. But one of the things that's important to us here at the law school is that all of the students, as they move through the program of education, that two things happen: that they are challenged and that they thrive to the maximum extent possible while they do that. Well, Catherine Sims is responsible more than anyone else for the thriving part. Okay? And she does a fabulous job in that work. She works with our student organizations and just generally makes sure that we have a rich and vibrant academic environment. So, Catherine, thank you so much for all that you do. Professor Tilley, our other hooder, is a member of our faculty, and he teaches in practice court. You may have heard about him, and it probably wouldn't have been kind if you heard a phone call from your student. He's more on the challenging side of the equation. And so he teaches advocacy and evidence in our courtrooms and procedure in our classrooms, and his job, along with Professor Anthony Brewster and Professor Liz Fraley and Professor Robert Little, is to put them through their paces in our capstone practice court program, which is renowned for its rigor and difficulty. But think about what it says about the character of these graduates, that they've actually selected him to hood them. I think that speaks highly of their character. It's sort of like it's medicine, but we know that we need it. And that's a good thing, and speaks very well of all of you. Professor Tilley came to us from another law school after many years of fine service there, and is doing a fabulous job on our faculty. So Professor Tilley, thank you very much for all that you've done. I'm going to save my remarks for Professor Anthony Brewster, who's been selected by the class to deliver the commencement address, but I do want to acknowledge the two people here on your far right, Dean Patricia Wilson and Dean Angela Cruz-Turner. So they are part of the senior leadership team. By the way, my name is Jeremy Counselor, and I'm the dean of the law school. I should have said that at the beginning. I really should have said that at the beginning if you weren't following along the program. But the three of us are sort of involved in the operations of the law school on a day-to-day basis. It's our faculty who makes it happen in the classroom. But there are a lot of other things that happen around organizing and logistics and all sorts of things. And they are wonderful supporters of me and our faculty and our staff. And we just couldn't make this thing happen without Dean Wilson and Dean Cruz-Turner. So thank you both very much for your service. And I am very pleased, we all of us here at the law school are very pleased to have with us today Dr. Nancy Brickhouse. Dr. Brickhouse is the provost of Baylor University, and you may say, what is a provost? A provost is the chief academic officer of the university. As a practical matter, she is my boss. She is the boss of all the deans of all the colleges and schools, and she has done a fabulous job in her 7 years as provost of Baylor University. And 7 years may not seem very long to you, but for provost, that's like 120 years of time. She has led Baylor University to achieve Research 1 status, which is the highest research classification by the Carnegie Institute that a university can achieve. She is fabulous to work with and has done a wonderful job for all of the colleges and schools at Baylor, and that certainly includes the law school. So Provost Brickhouse, thank you for being here with us. We're very privileged to have you. One final thing that we do here in our commencement and have done for a long time is that the highest ranked student in this graduating class gets the privilege of delivering a commencement address. And that's in keeping with the legal profession. The reward for good hard work is more good hard work. And the highest ranking member of this class is Ben Amundsen, and I call you to the podium now to give your remarks. Ben, congratulations and welcome.
Well, thank you, Dean Counselor, and thank you, Matt. That was a great prayer, so thank you very much. And congratulations, graduates. I didn't know I'd be this emotional, to be honest with you, standing up here, but looking out, seeing Joe Bang's smiling face, I just can't contain it. I'm very grateful to have gone through school with y'all. I hope it's all right. I wanted to share with y'all my favorite Bible story, if I can, because I think it fits well with today's graduation ceremony. It's the story of a man named Elisha. Now, Elisha was a prophet who lived about 3,000 years ago, and he had gained so much influence in his region that he started to make some enemies. And one of those enemies was a king who disliked Elisha so much that he decided to send an entire army with the stated purpose of killing the prophet Elisha. Well, this army eventually finds out where Elisha's staying, and they surround the city. And the famous part of the story is that one of Elisha's friends goes up to him and basically says, "Elisha, we're cooked, dude. Like, they have the city surrounded. We have no one to defend us. Like, what are we going to do?" And Elisha prays this prayer over his friend. He says, "Open his eyes, Lord, that he may see." And suddenly Elisha's friend looks up and he sees appearing what are described as chariots of fire that are standing there to defend Elisha. And the story has a peaceful resolution where nobody's hurt and Elisha escapes peacefully because God protected him. And I love that story because when you're standing on cold call at Baylor University School of Law, meaning the professor has stood you up to ask the hardest question imaginable, and you get that question slightly wrong. You might hear something from Professor Featherston like, "Mr. Amundsen, these are basic first-year fundamental property principles," which may be a direct quote from him. But in that moment on cold call, you might feel like Elisha's friend. You might look around and say, "You know what? This is my demise right here." But I pray often for my class, but more often for myself, "Lord, open my eyes that I might see." And I love days like today because in reality, you do get to see. Because if you look around you, you're surrounded, graduates, not by chariots of fire necessarily standing in your defense, but you're surrounded by the people who loved you and supported you and have been there every step of the way, our family, our loved ones, our professors, our peers. And I just hope you know that God's hand has been on this process and he's been with you and he'll be with you in the future. And I hope you can see that today. And as I was reflecting on some of the ways y'all have encouraged me and like spurred me on to continue through law school, I couldn't help but think of some of my favorite stories from some of my classmates and the attributes that they embodied that just pushed me forward. The first was Mr. James Niner. Because there was a point in law school I thought this is too much work to survive. James Niner embodied enthusiasm because he demonstrated to me that actually it's not enough work, and he wrote a sci-fi book on the side and published it, which is incredible. The second person who comes to mind is Kennedy Woods. Because while I went to law school oftentimes for my selfish gain and ambition, Kennedy Woods did it, she embodied selflessness. Because the whole time she was doing it for her little kiddos as a mom and putting their well-being first. And I always looked up to that, Kennedy. The third person is Chris Webber, and Chris Webber embodies encouragement, okay? You can hear the giggles already, but he embodies encouragement because while I always tell the truth about my golf scores, Chris always changes his to look slightly better than they actually are. But I know he's just trying to push me on to be the best version of myself, so. No, I'm kidding, Chris. I had to get one at you, but. The other group of students who came to mind, I could go for days, but it was Keegan Kuhn, Kaya Helmer, Catherine Latour, Kate Sparks, Dylan Evans, and Matt Zahn, because every student here at Baylor Law does a big trial where you try a case. But they displayed something between tenacity and insanity because they took the Titanic case, which litigates literally the sinking of the Titanic, which might be the most complex lawsuit I can imagine. So thank y'all for embodying tenacity. I appreciate that. Well, as y'all look around today, I just hope you can reflect and see how grateful really we should be. We should be proud of our accomplishments, but there's something different than pride that is also just gratitude. Like, thank you for this opportunity to be able to graduate high school, graduate college, graduate and get your JD. It is an incredible accomplishment. And so thank you all so much for letting me join alongside you. And I really look forward to continuing as Baylor lawyers and keeping this unity together. So thank you, graduates. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Ben. It's good for, I guess, the faculty to be cast as the bad guys in the Bible. Don't encourage them. These are the things that encourage them to keep on keeping on. But that was fabulous, Ben. And one of the things I love about it is you acknowledging your classmates. And I don't know exactly what it is that we at the law school do to make this happen, but I've always thought we get more than our fair share of great people as law students, and this group is certainly of that caliber. And so we're really proud of all of you. We've come now to the point where Professor Anthony Brewster will give his commencement address. Professor Brewster is a fabulous attorney for many years, managing partner of the Brewster firm, and before that at a very fine firm called Nix Patterson, and had tremendous success in the practice of law. And we came to a point as a law school where we had to find replacements for people who were leaving the practice court program as faculty, myself included. And I would be quite easy to replace, but our colleague Jim Wren was also leaving the faculty. He was the director of the program, and that was going to be really hard to deal with, and I was frankly worried about it. And we got Professor Tilley as well as Professor Brewster, and I remember you always wonder, can the people do what they need to be able to do for our students? And I remember sitting in a courtroom with some students with Professor Brewster a couple of years ago and listening to him, the first time I've ever heard it, teach students how to do this. And I thought, this guy's got it. It's a rare thing to have both an academic bent to be able to communicate complex legal concepts, but also the very practical. How do you ask a question of a witness? This is a good question. This is a bad question. Just for example, he's a master and has already, in just a little over 2 years on our faculty, made a tremendous difference for the law school and for these students. And I am very proud to say that he is one of our fellow Baylor Law School graduates, and you have chosen very well in your commencement speaker today. So Professor Brewster, please.
Thank you, Dean Counselor, for that kind introduction. Ben, thank you for your very good remarks. I just want to start today by saying to y'all, graduates, congratulations. This is a tremendous day. And I'm confident that your many loved ones who are packing Waco Hall today, who have supported you emotionally and assisted you financially and prayed for you earnestly, have been anticipating this day for a long time. So congratulations. They may not have been anticipating it perhaps quite as long as you have been during this past year of practice court, but you're here. You've made it and you've earned it. It's time to celebrate. I also want to thank you to the spring class of 2026 for the honor of sharing these brief remarks with you today, because I know I speak for almost our entire faculty by expressing appreciation that you had the wisdom and the insight and the clarity to select someone other than Professor Tilley to speak today. Those of you who don't come to many graduations may not know, but Professor Tilley has spoken at 3 of the last 4 graduations, and you may think that he only picks on people in practice court. But I can assure you that's not true. He continues to pick on people even in his commencement addresses. For some reason, he likes to target his own colleagues in our vehicles, specifically Dean Counselor's car and my truck. So, frankly, we are tired of it, and we're grateful that you've chosen to rob Professor Tilley of the opportunity to do so on this stage. I, for one, plan to take the high road and say nothing about his small, hybrid electric, lipstick red pickup truck during my remarks today. I remember when I sat exactly where you now sit. 24 years ago, I was here graduating from Baylor Law School. And almost a quarter of a century later, I can remember some moments of graduation vividly. My wife and I rejoicing that practice court and law school were finally over. My loved ones in the audience where yours sit today. And an awesome graduation lunch at a restaurant in Waco that no longer exists. But one thing I can't remember is the identity of the person who spoke at my graduation, nor do I remember a single thing they said. So by personal experience, I'm completely aware that your future memory may blot out anything I say today, and frankly, from your own profitability standpoint, I hope you remember what we talked about in practice court more than what we talk about here today. But having practiced law for a couple of decades before returning here to teach at the law school, I learned a couple of lessons about building a fulfilling life as a lawyer. That's really what I want to talk about today. I think it's the most important thing we can send you off with are principles for building a fulfilling life in a challenging career. So I want to share 3 of them with you today. The first is this. You've already heard it mentioned a couple of times during our ceremony so far. But the first, your career should primarily be about one thing, and that is service. The practice of law is a service profession. People will come to you and turn to you when they are in times of great distress, usually in times of their greatest need. At its core, that's what the profession of law is about, serving people in need. That's what makes the practice of law noble, honorable, and esteemed. I want to encourage you today, never lose sight of that core principle when you're practicing law, because you will face many temptations to do so. You'll be tempted to put your interest above your client's interest. You'll be tempted to simply cut corners sometimes, to make choices, do things without counseling your clients about the options simply because you don't feel like you have time. You'll face temptation to pursue things like self-promotion, money, and ego, instead of simply serving your community at large. So my advice to you is simply never stop serving. Self-promotion in the practice of law is the antithesis of self-sacrifice. There is a better way to practice law with humility, putting others before yourself. As my first boss in the legal world, Harold Nix, told me when I was a young lawyer, the only place I want to see my name in writing is in the Lamb's Book of Life. Mr. Nix died last weekend. I'm confident that his desired choice of where to see his name in print now seems all the wiser. As a class in practice court last fall, you had a front row seat to someone embodying this principle of service to others. It's one of the best examples I can remember in a while. Now, for those of you non-Baylor graduates in the room, one of the many pressures at practice court here at Baylor is time management. It can be challenging to be ready for practice court every day without sacrificing other important areas of your life. For this reason, my colleague, Professor Fraley, offers workout immunity. If you complete 12 one-hour workouts during the first quarter of practice court, Professor Fraley will allow you to come to evidence class unprepared one day, with advance notice, of course. But for that one day, you're immune from being called on. I realize that may not sound like much of a prize to you non-Baylor law folks out there, but trust me, in practice court, it's a nice reward. Well, this year, one of our graduates here today, Tyler Bischoff, who you've already seen stand for his service to our country, completed his required workouts and earned his immunity day. However, instead of using it, he exercised this exact principle of putting others before himself and gave his immunity away. He actually filed a motion with the practice court faculty asking permission to gift his hard-earned workout immunity to a fellow graduate. Mr. Bischoff, well done. That's a great start towards a lifetime of using what you've been given and what you've accomplished, not for yourself, but for others. So graduates, when you leave law school, if you need an easy reminder about how to serve, remember Mr. Bischoff's immunity gift. And some, I hope you never stop using your law degree to serve others. That will be your greatest source of fulfillment professionally. The second key I've learned about building a fulfilling life as a lawyer in a couple decades of practice is this: attitude is everything. I learned this phrase from a personal mentor of mine that I met during law school. He has also since passed away, but the impact of his words in my life never has. I've found that as you travel through a career in the law, there are very few things more important than keeping a good attitude and being a person of optimism. At the outset, if you don't think that you have much to be thankful for, I want to encourage you with this perspective. You're wrong. You could still be in practice court. In all seriousness, you've been given and earned a significant number of blessings to be thankful for, starting with today, a law degree. The opportunity to attend and complete law school is a rare one. Less than 0.5% of the United States population are attorneys. So think about that. 99.5% of Americans don't have the blessing of earning a law degree like you've done. A Juris Doctorate is a powerful tool, so always remember you have a lot to be thankful for. Attitude is everything. Those of you that have traveled to developing countries know at an even deeper level how fortunate you are to be sitting in the seat you're sitting in today. I've traveled to dozens of countries around the world, and the most depressing place I've ever been is the children's wing of a prison in Lusaka, Zambia. Our law school has a great program headed by Professor Sayre, working with children in conflict with the law in Zambia. And the loss of hope in those imprisoned children's eyes is haunting and hollow and humbling. It makes you realize how much you have to be thankful for, and hopefully motivates you to action, to make our world a more just and a more fair place. Attitude is indeed everything. Being grateful, however, is not the only positive attitude trait that will matter to you as you build your legal career. I want to challenge you intentionally choose to get uncomfortable. Seek a life on the edge of your comfort zone. This will force several positive attitudes to emerge in your own life. It will help you live with a constant growth mindset. There is an abundant life to be had all around you, even in the practice of law, if you will simply seek it. Don't waste your life just scrolling. The most powerful positive attitude that I've identified in the practice of law is joy in the face of tough circumstances, which you will face in the practice of law. In the words of Mr. Amundsen, when you're cooked, dude. One of the best life stories I've ever read came from a man who lost both his mom and his older brother when he was 12 years old. From that trauma, his dad developed a drinking problem, eventually abandoned his family, and left this 12-year-old boy to raise 3 young siblings in a condition of poverty. Eventually, those 4 youngsters ended up in a group home raised by house parents. And despite those early setbacks, he chose joy. This man would graduate from college, earn a PhD, get married, and eventually raise a family of his own. Later in his life, he self-published a small memoir called Living on the Edge. He talks in it about keeping a growth mindset and walks through how we can choose to have an attitude of abundance instead of a mindset of scarcity, despite our tough circumstances. He describes choosing to embrace risk with joy because joy is contagious. I know this true story very well. I grew up hearing it around the dinner table. The author's my dad. In sum, attitude is everything. Every day, you will have the power to choose to have a positive attitude. That will be your greatest source of fulfillment, personally. Lastly, the third helpful principle that I can share in building a fulfilling life as a lawyer is this, and that is to invest in healthy relationships. Human beings were created to be relational by design. From the beginning of Scripture, we see it declared, it is not good for us to be alone. That's a truth that transcends religion, it transcends economics, it transcends every culture on earth. There's an old saying that goes like this, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. This speaks to the importance of your community and your relationship. But equally important is the quality of your relationships. The book of Proverbs says it like this: "He who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm." What does all this mean for you as a lawyer? Simply put, choose carefully who you invest in your relationships with. You'll remember we talked on the very last day in Practice Court 1 in the fall about the 5 F's: faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances. In that order. Interestingly, the first 3 are all relational: faith, family, and friends. In my own life, I depend on my faith daily. It's a rich relationship for me. My most treasured earthly relationship is with my wonderful wife, Amy. We were married before I started Baylor Law School, and I'm confident I would not have made it through without her. After that, I treasure my relationship with my 3 kids, who are basically adults at this point, and I continually try to seek to invest in good friendships. All 3 of the first 5 of those first important F's are relational. Life really is all about relationships. And your friends that are sitting next to you today as graduates, you will share a bond with them for the rest of your life based on these 3 short years at Baylor Law School. When you leave here, your circle of relational influence will continue to grow. So I encourage you, choose wisely who you surround yourself with. And after you choose wisely, nurture and invest and develop those relationships. Many of them will indeed last a lifetime. And some, don't lose sight of the fact, relationships are the biggest source of joy in life. They will be a great source of fulfillment, spiritually and emotionally. As I reflect on those 3 principles, I'm reminded of an inscription that you might see after this ceremony today. If you go back to the law school, it's on a gray stone panel on the right side of the law school building. As you climb the front steps, a little bit obscured by some tree limbs, it has Micah 6:8 inscribed on it. "What does the Lord require of us but to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God?" That one verse sums up these 3 important principles, I believe. First, act justly. Serve others, and you'll be fulfilled professionally. Second, love mercy. A good attitude will fulfill you personally. And third, walk humbly with God. Solid relationships will fulfill you spiritually and emotionally. So with that, the time has come. I know you are ready to move on to the real reason you came here today, to walk across this stage. Before we do that, I'm reminded of Mr. Kayla's sticky note with his words of advice to the younger law students that fateful day in Practice Court 1 this year. A phrase so powerful it made its way onto your class t-shirt. This is your last chance to leave while you still can. Actually, this is the time where you must leave, and we are proud to see you do so. On behalf of our law school faculty, let me congratulate you for earning a degree from Baylor Law School. Thank you again for allowing me to be the first to welcome you into a small and special group. Congratulations on becoming Baylor lawyers, and may God bless you as you leave this place and go out to change the world.
Professor Brewster, that was fabulous. Graduates, as I said, you chose wisely your commencement speaker, and I think we all got a little bit of a taste about why we're so grateful to have Professor Brewster on our faculty. Before we move on, I want to take a moment to acknowledge a couple of people on the stage here with us today, and I'll ask them to stand. One has already been mentioned for daring to insist that second-year law students understand first-year property principles, and that is Professor Tom Featherston. Tom, I'll ask you to stand, and Professor Beth Miller. I don't know that, I know that my words cannot adequately express what over several decades these two faculty members have done for our law school. They are outstanding teachers, incredible scholars, and servants of Baylor University. They literally built who we are today. And this summer, they will both retire from the full-time faculty. I don't know, well, I know we cannot replace them, but we're going to have to try. And one way is that I'm going to insist that they both remain on as part-time faculty and continue to do quite a bit of teaching. And thanks to Provost Brickhouse and President Livingstone, they have both been granted the status of faculty emeritus beginning at the point that they retire. So they will continue to be deeply involved in our law school. But I want both of you to know how grateful we are for all that you have done. There is no way that we can fully repay you, but it is appropriate today at our commencement ceremony to acknowledge all that you have done for Baylor Law School, and we are incredibly grateful for it. Thank you so much. I will say I think it's a bit of an advantage when you're teaching law that you sort of created. I think that's a good thing. That comes along with some advantages. But it just speaks to how influential they are. And again, we're so grateful to both Professor Miller and Professor Featherston. Graduates, we have come now to the conferral of the degree. Please rise. Provost Brickhouse, if you would join me. Provost Brickhouse, each of the candidates before you have completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor, as prescribed by the faculty of the School of Law and by Baylor University, acting through the authority of the Board of Regents. It is my pleasure to present the class to you for the conferral of the degrees.
Each of you has completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as set forth by the Baylor University School of Law. Upon the certification of the Faculty of Law, and on behalf of the Baylor University Board of Regents and myself, it is my pleasure to confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor. Congratulations.
Thank you, Provost Brickhouse. Graduates, congratulations. And graduates, family, and friends, we will now move on to handing over the diplomas and hooding. While that happens, here on the stage, we play a little game. And here's the game. We measure your love for your graduate by how much noise you make when their name is called. You need to hoop and holler. If you left the boat horn or the cowbell in the truck, you might have time to go get it. We're going in alphabetical order. So enjoy yourselves and show them your love when their name is called.
Benjamin Elias Amundsen, summa cum laude, highest ranking student in the graduating class. Joseph Allen Bang, cum laude, special distinction in litigation. Alexandra Sarah Barnett. Minakshi Veera Venkata Bahara. Tyler John Cornelissa Bischoff, Public Interest Fellow. Taylor Allison Brown, Special Distinction in Litigation. James Richard Comer. Keegan David Kuhn, cum laude, Special Distinction in Litigation. Charlie Diane Delmonico. Haley Addison Dill, cum laude. Lilburn Linwood Dukes IV. Elise Juliet Easton, cum laude. Dylan Gregory Evans, summa cum laude. Kyle J. Faraday, Public Interest Fellow. Justin Lloyd Garber, cum laude. Trevor Jonathan Goodrich. Kaylin Alexandre Gregory.
Let's go, Mama!
Chase David Grimshaw. Tarshiana Unique Hall. Kaya Marie Helmer, Special Distinction in Litigation. Jose Rogelio Hernandez. Wyatt Lee Hicks. Sean Timothy Kelly. Andrew Scott King. Aaron Kane Kachinka. Justin Yun Lam Lam. Catherine Elizabeth Latour, magna cum laude. Emily Marie Lentzner, magna cum laude. Giovanni Milan Lewis. Hunter Austin Littleton. Zane Jacob Martin, cum laude. Noah Vincent Macero, magna cum laude. Marlon Anthony Morales. Samuel David Murray, summa cum laude. James Isaac Niner. David Hancock Palmer. Hannah Elizabeth Prom. Lily Mae Reed, magna cum laude. Gracie Noel Reeves, summa cum laude. David Andrew Sandler. Our next graduate is not in attendance, Janira Q. Shaw. Catherine Alice Sparks, Special Distinction in Litigation. Hannah Soul. The next graduate is not in attendance, Sanila Tamiz. Jonathan Andrew Turner. Krista Lena Walton, Special Distinction in Litigation. Christopher G. Weber, magna cum laude. Cameron Alexis Whitman, cum laude, Special Distinction in Litigation. Maddie Nicole Williams Keller, summa cum laude. Kennedy Beth Woods. Matthew Madden Zahn. Abigail Rose Zeman Tokarczyk, Public Interest Fellow.
Let's give them all one more round of applause. There was a lot of love in the room, but this is Baylor Law School and there must be a winner. It was close, very close. I felt on decibels it was a tie between Zahn and Tarsiana. We're not scoring anymore. There are no more opportunity to win points. But we also, we don't normally do this, but we surreptitiously started playing another game. Your shoe game was on point, especially the ladies. And I'm going to, personal privilege, Kaya, I thought yours were the best. I thought they were fabulous. Fabulous. Okay. I want to invite all of you to a reception, family, friends, graduates, to a reception that we will have at the law school. Classrooms and courtrooms should be open so they can take you through and tell you tall tales about where they shed their blood and tears and all of that. Many of our faculty will be there to chat with you and kind of set you straight about what really happened in law school. But please, come over for refreshments, and it would be great to see you and connect with the people who made these outstanding folks who are now Baylor lawyers, and we're very proud to have you join our ranks. I want to thank the people who made this commencement exercise possible. Chris Womack is our pianist, as always. Thank you, Chris, for being here with us. Our registrar team at the law school takes the lead on planning our commencement ceremonies, and they do just a fabulous job. So I want to thank Jerry Cunningham, Lauren Porter, and Susie Daniel. Our Baylor Law IT team, our Baylor Law Alumni Association will be hosting the reception for all of you as we welcome you in to become Baylor lawyers and part of our Alumni Association. I want to thank Joshua Gilliam and Jeff Robinson, the entire crew at Waco Hall, for making this available to us. And Eric Gell and Jerry Arson, our photographers. I saw Eric. I don't know that I saw Jerry here, but thank you for being here. And I want to thank our student workers who are out here directing people to go where they need to go. Emily Wong, Haley Coates, Melina Barrientos, and Spencer Benton. Thank you for your work. We will process out. We will go to the stairs and we will take a group photo. Graduates, the official photographer is Eric Gell. But family, after the official photographer takes the photo, if you want to get some photos, we'll be happy to pose a little longer so that you can have those available to you. Graduates, I want to leave you with one final charge, and these are words that I think about a lot from a mentor to me from afar, C.S. Lewis, who says, aim at heaven and you'll get the earth thrown in for good measure. If you aim at the earth, you won't get either. So let's go forward.